Morning, everyone. Um, so today, my name is TAIWO AKINMOSIN from the Cybersecurity Department. Today, we will be talking about the journey of the data breach, how cyber attacks actually happen, and why they matters to everybody in the organization. Because most times when people think about cyber attack, they often imagine an hacker just starts to break into a system in seconds. But in reality, most cyber attack happens slowly. Attackers study the organization, they observe the behaviors, they test the weaknesses, they move step by step until they can reach the valuable data. I want you to just imagine as I take on the journey of this topic as think of it like a bank robbery where the robbery happens, but the crime is observed. They have to be careful. They have to um, observe the security guys, the building layout, and also cyber attack happens or operates in a similar way. So they don't just attack the technology; they study the people, they study the system, they study the process, and this is why when we talk about cyber security or talk about security personally, every department contributes either to strengthening the security or unintentionally creating an opportunity for an attack. So today we'll be looking at what a data breach actually means, how attacker can move through systems, and the real incident that happens to major companies. We look at two or three scenarios and how breaches affect our daily can affect our daily operation and what we can all do to prevent them. So to my next slide. So a data breach. What is a data breach? A data breach is a security incident that affects personal data. It exposes sensitive, protected or confidential information to someone who has no right or authority to have such information, just like an hacker. So according to my definition, see that a data breach occurs when sensitive. So I wanted to pay attention to that sensitive, protected or confidential data is copied, or viewed or used by an authorized user or unauthorized individual. So to make this more relatable, so many of us would think that maybe when an attacker hacked into a company, that is a data breach. So I want to take, for example, an employee who accidentally sent a spreadsheet containing customers' information to the wrong email address, even though it wasn't intentional. That situation will still be considered as a data breach because it exposes the sensitive, protected, and confidential data for that organization. So another example could be like a user, using a company's laptop that contains unprotected internal files, or when an attacker, that one's you did hear about that when an attacker successfully logged in into a company's system, they, using some stolen credentials. So breach don't always have to do with the complex hacking, like all the tools they are buying like that. So sometimes they happen because of simple mistakes or weak security practices, and that risk of data breach from individuals to organizations, even governments, they can be at risk of it. So I'll quickly talk about the core causes of data breach. We see that breaches are not copyless acts. They can be intentionally hacking targets an organization using techniques like phishing mail. Sometimes they use malware in your system. Sometimes they exploit software vulnerabilities. So, for example, I think there was a scenario where I think a scenario when an employee received an email, pretending to be from the IT. The employee received an email. The person impersonating to be an IT asked them to reset their password, and once they click on it, the website was hacked. So another thing factor we must consider here is the human error. So many breaches occurs because of simple mistakes. It could be sharing confidential file publicly. It could be misconfiguring the cloud storage. It could even mean using a weak password. So there was a famous incident that happened when a company accidentally made their cloud database public access online. See that one, no hacker was needed. You don't need an hacker for that one. So anyone on the internet could access it. So far, you stumble upon it because the company actually, I think the developer make the cloud-based database available online. So another factor again is the insider threat. Sometimes the risk comes from the organization to be an employee who accidentally leaked data, or some could even abuse internal privilege. So because the insiders have access, so it even make that case uh, difficult to detect, even difficult to detect. See, issues are more than just the security team. They can impact, in fact, they can affect the whole entire organization. So we are going to be looking at three impacts. So the first one is the finance impact, where is so uh, I, I mentioned two examples. Which the, I want to confirm if you can hear me. I want to confirm if anyone can hear me. I want to confirm if you can.
Yes, I can hear you, Taiwo. I can hear you. I
Okay,
can
thank
hear
you.
you, Taiwo.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I just want to be sure I'm not splitting myself. So, so I was talking about the legal consequences. I was talking about the legal consequences. Many countries now they enforce strict data protection laws. So one of the two examples I mentioned here is the GDPR or CCP, and GDPR stands for General Data Protection Regulation. I think so. I, I, my, so GDPR stands for General Data Protection Regulation, law designed to protect personal data. So it requires organizations to secure personal data, control how their data is used. We have to face fine up to 4%. So in Nigeria here we have what we call the NDP for enforcing data protection regulation under the Nigeria Data Protection Act. So we have that. So I'll be moving to my next slide. So one of the things I'm trying to point towards here is that it affects the operation. When, for example, now everyone have things to do for the day. You have things to focus on for the day. And once there's data breach, it just disrupts the operation. Instead of you focusing on the necessary things, you start running around to ensure that things are in place, the company is fine, and all of that. Do you get what I'm saying? So, um, slide, we have the modern stress asking. No, according to research, according to analysis, I find that it takes 207 days to contain. I mean, average time to identify and stop a breach. For some companies, there might be a data breach and they won't even notice that. It takes months, for some people it takes years. In fact, it takes a couple of months for some organizations also report it. So I'm trying to say that it still affects operation disruption. So there is the valuable target where
So,
attacker.
so we cannot see your screen, sir.
Oh, you can't see my screen. I'm so sorry. Let me stop sharing and share it. I apologize for that regard. Please let me stop. Please permit me. Okay. So I want to confirm if you can see my screen. Please confirm if you can see my screen. Okay. Thank you, Peter. Slide 4. Operation. So please, I want to confirm if you can hear me. I think the network threw me out. I didn't notice that. I was just speaking.
Okay, we can hear you now. We lost you for some times.
Oh, I apologize in that regard. So sorry.
Yeah.
Let me share my screen again. I will need you to give me access to share my screen. Okay.
Yeah, please go ahead and share your screen now.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So I want to confirm if you can hear my screen.
Yes, we
If you can
can.
see my if you can see my screen, okay, thank you. So I'm at the life cycle of a data breach. That most cyber attacks, they follow a similar journey, and the stages include that the recognizes access. There's the foot code. There is the privilege escalation, the lateral movement, the data discovery, and data exfiltration. So they don't just hack you in a seconds, like I mentioned earlier. They don't just hack you. Attacker they just hack you in a seconds, and that was all. So I will be sharing my next slide. So we quickly look at recognizes. It means information gathering. So whereby an attacker starts they start mapping the target. They map the target, and they already study you before they even strike. So this is one of the things an attacker does to you. So they study before they strike. They look for weak spots in the digital footprint. So for example now, job posting, social media, they are part of the things an attacker look at before they start before any hacking or any tool. So they look at you, they look at your social media, they look at the job posting, they look at the public repo. I mentioned earlier how an organization mistakenly make their database, cloud database, um, and they make it public unknowingly by mistake. So sometimes they may need to they collect information from your website. For example, now if you have a job advertisement and the company says that they need a certain they need an engineer, or they need they use cloud platforms or development frameworks. So in the course of the job advertisements, okay, I need someone who can do this, or trying to expose the kind of framework you are using. So attackers, they research the vulnerabilities that is related to those technology. So minimal informations about job posting is one of another way to reduce the risk. So recognizes when they make informations, they help attackers to identify potential entry points. Entry point. So another thing is the assets. So that's the hook. See, that's the moment when the attacker successfully enter into the system, and most times it happens through phishing mails, sometimes through stolen password or some vulnerability softwares, or exposed API key. So, I mentioned earlier that an employee, according to my research, received a mail, and sometimes it could even be from the HR department to ask them to update a payroll, or no, and it might be a link that leads to fake login. So another thing is the establishing a foot code. Stage three is the foot code. These are one of the things you see that it takes them a lot of stages. They don't just ask you in one day and just sit down and open their laptop like we watch in the movie. It doesn't happen that way. So once an attacker now have gain access to a system, they try to maintain their access, and that stage is called establishing a foot code. So an attacker, now what they do is that they install malware or a backdoor to ensure that they can stay, even if there is a change of password, if the original password is changed. So another one again is the privilege escalation. So after installing malware or a backdoor in the network or in the system, what they do is that they begin to they know that most employees have limited access, and that anything like the admin, the HR, they have control over the entire systems. So they try to upgrade their privilege until they reach that administrative level. So let me quickly move to the next slide. So there's the lateral movement, which is the abnormal traffic detection. So after gaining access, attacker they start exploring the network. This is called the lateral movement, like I said earlier. So instead of the attacking directly from outside, instead of them attacking from outside, what attacker does is that they move from one compromised system to another one. Inside the network, they start moving. So this is where we can now begin to see footprints. This is where we can see footprints, whereby for example, now if an attacker compromise one laptop, see from that laptop they can gain access to a shared device. Now that we even have Google Drive and all of that, where you can access informations via one laptop, you can access this. So from there they can discover the entire system, and they can get to a place where they now get the what they are looking for, which is the sensitive database, and then it allows them to map the entire internet network. So now, in the course of that, they move to the this stage is called data discovery. So they try to scan for customer database, they try to scan for financial reports, employee records, intellectual property, and then sometimes they find files that contains passwords, some confidential informations, even the payrolls, or the finance aspect of the company. So they might even try to look at the cloud storage location or the backup system that contains some archive data. So now there's what we call the data exfiltration, whereby um, when the data leave the organization, so they collect information, which is the departure. This is the fine goal. So they quietly bundle data and send it to their own external server, and then they collect informations, they discover and transfer it to an external server under their control. Sometimes they compress and even encrypt the file to avoid any form of detection. So once the data is outside the organization, they might sell it out to criminal marketplace. There's what we call the dark web or other platforms. So they might even use it for identity theft, where they start to impersonate. They might even use it for to blackmail the organization through ransomware. So I'm going to be talking about reward cases, industrial case studies. So the number one is the Equifax. That happens in the year 2017, I think. So I'm trying to make us understand how serious data breach can become, because if I want us to look at this reward scenario because several organizations with strong resources and they have experienced security team, they might still even experience this major breach. And this case shows it even shows that even small vulnerability or mistake can lead to the very large consequences. So this scenario that I'm painting out to you, they are not small organizations. They are organizations that also have security team. They have all that it takes. They have all department it takes to secure. But little mistakes can cause all of this. So we're looking at the Equifax. So one of the most significant data breach in history involve the credit reporting company. It's a credit reporting company, Equifax. So they store high. So they when I talk about credit reporting, it means that they store high sensitive financial information about individuals, about credit histories, personal identification data. So in 2017, so an attacker exploit a known vulnerability in what we call the Apache Strut web application framework used by that very company, Equifax. So a security patch for this vulnerability have been released, but the mistake the company did is that they failed to apply the patch on time. So because the system remains unpatched, the attacker was able to exploit the vulnerability and gain access to the company's network. So once once inside the system, the attacker they spent weeks to exploit the internal database and they extract sensitive information. So the attackers they gain access to personal data that belong to I think approximately 147 million people because the data that was stolen comprises of the name, SSN, which is social security numbers, date of birth, addresses, and some cases even driver license. So they face investigation, they face lawsuit, and eventually they paid they paid hundreds millions of dollars in settlement. You see that it affects the operation of the system. Instead of them focusing on satisfying the customer, they have to focus on paying, make investigation, and sometimes you have to face the laws regulatory for this for data. So another case study is the Yahoo. That happens I think 2023. Um, so we all know Yahoo. I think we are very well also one of the those they managed to gain access to Yahoo internal corporate connected to state sponsorship. I think they paid the attacker somehow. So the network wasn't fair on my side. I had to confirm where you lost me so I can quickly run and round off my session. Where you lost me so I can so much. Yes, I was talking about the Yahoo. I was talking about the Yahoo data breach. Please permit me to share my screen. Okay. So another case study is the Uber. Is the Uber. Okay. Let me just be sure. Okay. So another case study is the Uber. Is the Uber company. We are all familiar with Uber. Um, this attack this breach happens in 2016, where attacker was able to gain access to Uber's internal system through a relative system method. So the credentials was found in the public GitHub repository where the developer accidentally exposed access key. So using that credential, the attacker was able to access Uber's cloud storage environment, and I think they download closely. I think approximately 57 million users and drivers worldwide. So that was a data breach that really cost them a lot. So I'm trying to say that when we look at these three cases together, there is a very clear pattern. There's a clear pattern. Number one was the Equifax, which is an unpatched system. Yahoo, which is a stolen credential, and then Uber, which is an exposed access key. So once an attacker gained entry, they were able to move deeper into the system and steal massive amount of data and still massive amount of data. So it's not just about when we talk about security, it's not just about preventing those sophisticated attack, those big attack like if somebody's trying to bring that. No, it's about closing those small gaps before they become a major incident. So if they had closed these small gaps by updating their system, they will have avoid such name such record. So I'm going to be talking about impact on daily works. So like I mentioned earlier, that a data breach can disrupt the entire organization. It can disrupt the entire organization. So for the engineering department, they need to stop development and focus on this emergency security fix. They have to stop what they are doing, whereas they're supposed to be doing satisfy the customer. So that is for the HI, they may have to start dealing with the data exposure, and then the customer support system, they might need to start responding to worried customer and start receiving calls, whereas they're supposed to receiving normal calls for their organization, sell their products, render their services, and then for the finance department, they might have to face some fraud risk or regulatory investigation. So, in some cases, some organizations they shut down their system during those investigations. So you can see the impact of data breach on daily works. So to my next slide. So I'm going to be moving to the next slide, which is how do we prevent the journey? Now, I've walked us through the entire journey of how data breach happens. I've talked about the stages it takes. Now, the next question I want us to ask ourselves is that, okay, how do we stop that journey before it causes the damage? So there is a common saying in cybersecurity that a system is as only as secure as its weakest link. And in many cases, that weakest link is not the technology, it's not the tool, it is the processes, it is the configurations, it is the simple human mistakes. So to prevent such data breaches, it requires a lot of the combination of technologies, organization, such as one as look at some of the key practices that can help us reduce the risk of a breach. So number one is the multi-factor authentication, which is the MFA. So it is called the MFA, multi-factor authentication. It help you add extra verification step beyond just password. For example, now when you enter your password and you also need to approve your login through an authentication app, you might need to approve your login through an authentication app. Could be Microsoft authentication. Many of us are familiar with that. I want to believe that. Or to even enter a one-time code. So it is very important because even password can be stolen sometimes through phishing attack. And even if an attacker managed to get your password, they cannot have access to your account without that second verification factor or multi-factor authentication. So another thing is the patching. So which is the software patching and updates and patching. So Regular software updates or software patching. So update your laptop and software immediately when prompted. You see the case of Equifax is where they, even though the patches have been available, they ignored it. So many attackers, they exploit this vulnerability in the outdated software, and this is one of the reasons why companies look into their system, into their codes, into their products, into all that they are doing, and they intend to update it and to also upgrade and to patch any form of vulnerabilities they discovered. So once companies discover a vulnerability, they will always release a security update to fix them. So installing these updates will help us ensure that all those known vulnerabilities or weaknesses are closed before an attacker can exploit them. So another thing is an awareness. So security awareness is very important. You see, sometimes we might not value data or information, you might not value it. So people are just natural, not just value it. So one of the things security awareness help you see is that if you do not value it, this will be the cause, such as one as I'm doing today, to help you see that okay, a data breach can happen through this. Once an attacker have this, it can affect the organization beyond your department, can affect all organization and also disrupt the operation of an organization. So beyond these key practices, there are other security layers one can put in place. For example, encryption. Encryption is when you protect your data, sensitive data, even if an attacker gain access to it, it is encrypted. It will take a lot of time to decrypt it. Another thing is the endpoint protection or antivirus. It helps you detect malicious software so that even when an attacker is in the system already, once you have an antivirus, the malicious or the backdoor or malwares they are installing. So the antivirus software can help you flag it according to the rules, and also another thing is the secure VPN connection for especially for remote access, whereby your data have to be encrypted using VPN. And there's also the principle of less privilege, where employee have access to the necessary data they need at work, not have access to all data. So another thing also the incident response planning, when an organization ensure that they can respond quickly in an attack when an attack occurs. So all these layers are what we call defense in-depth approach, when multiple safeguard work together to protect the organization. So preventing data breach is not about a single tool or the system. It's about the people. It's about the processes. It's about the technology working together to reduce risk and also to protect the organization's data. So this is the end of my okay. Okay, so I want us to move to question and answer. So I'll be giving room for question and answer. So this is the end of my presentation. So if there's any question you would love to ask, and I'll also be asking you questions if there is none. If you have a question, you can please signify. Okay. In the absence of no question, I want to take the absence for no question. So I'll be asking a simple question from us. I'll be asking a simple question from us. And so I want to ask, I was talking about data breach. It's not really about when an attacker. It's not just when an attacker attacks. It could be some, an employee or maybe anybody sending a spreadsheet that contains sensitive data to the wrong email. It's also a data breach. So far, an authorized user can have access to it. And then I talked about maybe your laptop was stolen, or your laptop was stolen, or it was misplaced. So I would love to ask us this question, that okay, if your laptop is stolen today, could the data inside it still be protected? I mean, if you misplace your laptop today, whether it was stolen or it was misplaced, the data on your laptop, are they protected? Are you sure they are protected? Are you sure anybody can have access to it? So this is going to be my question, and I'll be calling on. I don't know if anyone wants to answer my question. Okay, Peter, yes, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Taiwo, for the presentation. So Yes, I think the data in my laptop will be protected, although I'm supposed to have layers of defense, but right now it's just one defense I have, which is the password. So the hard drive is not encrypted. So, but now that you've created the awareness, maybe I will do that.
Okay, thank you so much, Peter. Yes, that's. I think you're speaking about the disk encryption. It is called full disk encryption, so that even when your full disk encryption, it protects your data stored on your laptop or your workstation, even if your device is stolen or lost. Even if let's even example an attacker or anybody intend to remove your hard drive, they cannot have access to your data because the data on the device cannot be accessed without proper authentication. And I think an example about that is the Microsoft BitLocker. So I don't know many. I believe 80% of us here are Windows users. There's what we call the Microsoft BitLocker. It encrypts the entire disk and stores the encryption key securely using an hardware component called TPM, Trust Platform Module, whereby even if they have access to your hard drive, they can't gain access to your data. So for I think for Mac users it is the Vi Vault, and for Linux user it is the Lux LUKS thereabouts. So it encrypts your data, it encrypts your disk, so that even if they have access to your hard drive, you put it on another device, they still cannot have access. To have access to it, it's going to be very difficult for an attacker to have access to your data. Thank you for listing that off for the hard drive. Thank you so much, Peter. Stable network. Okay, Peter, you want to say something? I think our time is fast spent. David, sorry, you can go ahead, David.
Um,
You
can
can
you hear
unmute your
me?
mic, David.
Good morning.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Well, as for me, the only security check I have on my own laptop is just the password. And if my laptop is stolen or taken, I think it can be hacked within seconds. Like there's literally no security check on it, just the password. That's all.
Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, there's no you can just dwell to take advantage of the window. If you are using Windows, what operating system are you using, David?
Yeah, I use Windows. Windows.
Windows. So what my Bitcoin even does from the beginning, once your system is off, you try to log in, you can't have access except that you have that code, CPM. So you can't have access to your laptop. Even you yourself, you have to enter that code apart from your normal user or admin pin as a user. So once you put on your laptop, there's the bit blocker that you need to input some codes into it. So what it does is that it encrypts the whole data. So please do it to cultivate that. I think somebody also mentioned something in the. Okay, yes, thank you. Sharon said encrypted, yes, strong login, and then find my devices. Yes, that's good enough. Yes, thank you so much, Sharon. Thank you so much. I want to once again apologize for my unstable network. So this is the end of my presentation. So you can join our stand-up session. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Taiwo, for that insightful one. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Our time is well spent. We'll be drawing the curtain here today. Kindly join us, stand up, ensure to do your microservices, and make sure that your day is productive. Have a wonderful day. Bye.